Hello and welcome to A Little Crafting. My name is Annie and this is my bi-weekly podcast where I talk about all of the things I've been making over the last couple of weeks, although it's been a bit longer than bi-weekly this last few weeks, so apologies for that. I am a knitter primarily, but I also dabble in a few other things, so weaving, sewing and also dyeing my own yarn. I am from Surrey, which is in the southeast of England, just southwest of London, and you can find me on Instagram if you would like to follow me as a_little_crafting, and I'm also on Ravelry as Ankiwoo. And today is Saturday the 2nd of April. So I had a very busy March and wasn't able to record towards the latter end. So we're now in April, but hopefully a quieter month this month, which means I have more time to focus on crafting and also recording the podcast. And let's get going. So I'll start with what I am wearing, and this is the Georgetown cardigan by Hannah Fettig. I've spoken about this quite a lot on the podcast, but this is knit in Durerem Natura Gilliatt in the Poivre Blanc colourway, which is this kind of mottled cream. It's an Aran or worsted weight yarn. I can never remember which, so apologies for that, but it's one of my favourites, and this is one of my favourite cardigans, in fact one of the only cardigans that I've actually knit. It is a fantastic staple. It's really easy to just throw on, especially with this colour as well. It goes with everything, and honestly it probably needs a bit of TLC now before I put it away for the warmer weather, which I thought was going to be a couple of weeks ago, but it suddenly got very cold. We've had snow falling, so I'm back wearing woolly knits until a point where I feel like it's warm enough not to, and then I'll probably wash everything and put it away for the warmer months. I would love to knit another one of these in a different colour, but I'm too excited for new projects at the moment, so one day I will knit another one, especially if this one gets worn as much as it has been, as it will probably eventually start to get wear and tear and holes in it, because that's how, you know, things happen, especially when I'm wearing this quite a lot. So that's what I'm wearing. I highly recommend the pattern. It, like I said, is a really good wardrobe staple. And nice and easy to knit. It just took a very long time to do the shawl collar, and I've knit quite a long cardigan. Obviously you can make it shorter, so yeah, it goes just below my hip, and you can make it shorter as you like. Yeah, there you go. So let's move on to works in progress, because I have no finished objects this week, which just goes to show how busy I've been. I've not cast on one hat in the last 3 weeks, so I clearly have fallen off the hat wagon after being so prolific at knitting hats last year, so I'll see if I can pick up the hat knitting mojo once again, but for the time being I will focus on works in progress. So if you've been watching my podcast for a little bit, you'll know that I have been trying to knit The Weekender by Andrea Mowry, and this is being kept in my antler and acorn bag, and I will show you where I am at the moment. So last time I recorded I was contemplating ripping out all of the knitting that I had done, because I thought that The Weekender that I'd started to knit was actually going to be too big, and a couple of you did say that they thought it would be too big too, so so I did go ahead and unravelled what I had. So I am now back at almost the same point, but not quite. So this is a kind of sweater that is knit from the inside, so that you don't have to purl all the time, because it has reverse stockinette on the outside, which I think is partly what makes it look so nice. So yeah, not very far. I've done probably 1.5 inches of the stockinette, or the reverse stockinette there, and obviously I had to redo the tubular cast-ons, which to be fair I'd mostly remembered how to do for the bottom, but yeah, it has this split hem here, so it should be quite lovely and cozy and also quite flattering with that split hem. I am knitting this in the same yarn as this is. So this is Durarium Natura Giliat in the Ciel colourway, which is the light blue. And I was hoping to have this knit up before the kind of warmer season, but it doesn't seem like I'm going to. So I've had to restart this a couple of times now, and it might be more of an ongoing project. I'm knitting this on 4mm needles, and yeah, it should be kind of smooth sailing now. I do think the size of it now, so if you have a look, is much more reasonable. So what I'm going to do is just hold it up. Yeah, it's more kind of like my shoulder width, which is probably what I want. I know it will stretch a little bit because Durarium Natura Giliat does. And yeah, I'll keep going and see what happens until it gets too hot to knit a really woolly organic yarn. Yeah, but super happy with it so far. It's going to be pretty basic all the way up to the sleeves. It's a bottom-up construction, as you can tell, and I've just got a sieve stockinette with a little bit of detail, so I'll just show you here where my progress keeper is. You've just got a single kind of knit stitch going all the way up there. So yeah, getting there. Thank you so much for everybody who made the suggestion that I do go ahead and unravel. I think it is the best idea. I don't want to knit a whole sweater and then find that it's too big for me. So there we go. I am using this Knit Pro needle minder, or I think it's called a needle minder, something maybe something else, just to hold my needles so that they don't poke through my bag later. These are really useful for larger needles especially. You'll see in a minute that I use toggles instead for the smaller ones. So there we go. That is my first project. The second project is another big one that I keep picking up and putting down, and that is the Starflanket by Stephen West. So you'll be, if you've been watching for some time, you'll be pleased to hear that I am out of the garter stitch section and onto the brioche. So garter stitch section looks absolutely lovely. I'll see if I can show you a bit more there. Yep, there you go. And here is the brioche bit. Although I haven't knit very much, I do really enjoy knitting brioche. I always thought it would be really complicated and I'd have to focus a lot on it, but actually now that I've tried it, it's quite simple and it flows. I don't have to worry too much about what I'm doing each row. So brioche is essentially reversible, and you knit one row over two rows basically. So you'll knit the row with one colour and then with the other colour, and what it does is, you see you've got the grey in the front here and then the orange behind, and then on the other side you've got the orange on the front and the grey behind, but it will be the grey bit that stands out, so it creates a kind of brioche rib effect, where you see the kind of orange section in the back as the shadow of the grey. So yeah, not very far. Like I've said many times before, this is an enormous amount of stitches on the needles, so I have actually stopped part way. But yeah, I'm still enjoying it and picking it up every so often to carry on knitting, and I will see how I get on with this section. So it's actually going to kind of fan out, so each of these bits will sort of fan out to one side, and then there is a section after that which includes eyelets, but I'm considering omitting the eyelets because they're quite big when you look at the pattern itself and the sample that Stephen West has knit, and I'm not a massive fan of eyelets, especially in something like a blanket, so I will probably omit the eyelets and just do a simple kind of garter stitch edge at the end. And then I have the very big mission of doing an I-cord bind off all the way around it, which is going to take me an absolute age. I'll probably, you know, pick it up and put it down a lot. But I'm excited to get to a point where I have a usable blanket one day. So yeah, moving along quite nicely with this now. The yarn, just to remind you and also to tell anyone that's new, is Willow and Lark Ramble, which is a yarn that is exclusive to Love Crafts, and it's a DK weight, 100% wool yarn, and it's super wash as well. It comes in 50-gram balls. The orange colour is 112. The grey that I'm using at the moment is 137. And grab the blue 135 is this kind of grey teal colour. And oh, the cream is 102, if you want to know. So yeah, I'm getting on well with that and getting on nicely with the yarn. Yeah, and as you can see, as mentioned, I'm using a double toggle just to hold my needles and prevent the stitches from falling off. I'm keeping this in a really huge bucket bag that my husband got me a long time ago when I first started knitting off Amazon. It looks like this. It's not the most attractive thing, but it does fit all of the yarn for the blanket, of which there is a lot of yarn. I've still got this mostly full of balls. Obviously, as it expands outwards, it will get, the rows will get longer and longer. I'll use more yarn as it goes. So there's still quite a lot that I need to use up. But yeah, perfect for this kind of project because I can just shove it in on top of the yarn that's already in there. So that's that one done. The next thing that I have been working on is actually something I haven't shown you on the podcast before, and that is my Zorzal shawl. So you will have seen the yarn because I used to have it hanging up here probably about a year ago, and it is this lovely yarn. So these two. This one is Just Rust and this one is Mutende, and these were originally Mr. B's yarns but effectively now Bird Street yarn, and they are both in the 4-ply Hiddleston base, which is a fingering weight 75/25 merino nylon, basically a sock yarn. But I am knitting the Zorzal, and this is a pattern by Lisa Hannes, and it's one that I've wanted to knit for a very long time. Because I'm a big fan of her shawls, and this one seems quite simple, but it's also a crescent shape, which I really love. I love crescent shaped shawls. I knit the Road to Rhinebeck by Knitting Expat, who's also Mina Phillip, as one of the first shawls I knit, and it was a mystery knit along, but it was great, and I decided at that point that I really loved crescent shapes. This one is quite a straightforward one, so let me see if I can show you the first section. So this section is just striped, so yeah, you can see orange and the kind of grey with a few flecks of other colours, and then I'm on the next section, which is done with short rows, but I've only just started it, so I've done a very small amount, and that will just be in the Mutende, and that orange section will kind of go, it will have a larger section on this side, but then it will join up all the way round on the right hand side. Yeah, sorry, the cable's a little bit short for me to show you fully. I might have to move this to a longer cable actually. And these are higher sharp needles like I always use. And this size is 3mm, so one of my go-to sizes for fingering weight yarn. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting on with this one. It's quite good TV knitting because you don't have to concentrate too much. At the moment I'm doing short rows, but they're quite obvious short rows, so it's not too complicated, and the yarn is really easy to knit with, so I also absolutely love the colours. And although I'm not 100% sure this is going to suit me because it's quite a yellow orange, I would say, and I'm not massively into yellow. It's coming out a bit lighter than I was expecting, but yeah, I'll see how it goes, and I'm enjoying knitting it for now anyway. It definitely fills my simple knit kind of category for the moment, where I just can carry on. It's quite a small project as well, so I can just get on with it really. And again, I'm using a double toggle just to hold these stitches on my needles here so that they don't fall off. And this is in my Marauders Map bag by Clara Rose Crafts, and this is one of my favourite bags. I love the handles, so you can customise the bags that you buy from her on Etsy. So I added handles and also chose a drawstring, and it's great. It's perfect size for a shawl project, or you know, something larger as well. If you're knitting a fingering weight sweater, I think you could fit in the skeins in there. So that's that one, and then I have another one that I haven't shown on the podcast before. So I mentioned last time that I was going to be starting a knit along for the Velvet Mirror Cowl by Andrea Mowry, and this one is a pattern with Surrey silk, held against fingering weight yarn of kind of any type really, and it's colour work, so you use the fingering weight yarn as one colour and the Surrey silk as the other. And I got a kit from Botanical Yarns at Unravel Festival, and to be honest, I would never have thought to knit this cowl if I hadn't seen it on the stand. So I got this Velvet Mirror Cowl kit. Here's the label from Botanical Yarns, and it is one 100-gram 75/25 merino nylon skein and one 50-gram Surrey alpaca skein. And I've now balled them up. So this is the Surrey, and it's really fluffy and also a wonderful colour. And this is the fingering weight, also this lovely kind of muted mauve colour. The reason I wanted this colour combo was because the cowl that I saw on the booth was exactly in these colours, and I thought it was perfect. So putting those to one side, I have started the colour work with the two yarns, and it is amazing to knit. So I'm hoping you can see that. It looks a bit holey at the moment, but I think it will cinch up once it's washed. But the Surrey alpaca is absolutely wonderful. It's so soft and squishy, and it just feels like luxury when you're knitting with it. And it blends together really nicely. I'll show you again. You can see the colourwork pattern is really well defined, even with the Surrey fluff. So it's great. It's looking amazing. And I just keep wanting to knit on this. I only started it last night, and I've already knit 20 rows of the colourwork, and I've been doing so much other stuff today. So yeah, I'm really impressed by this combo, and also the pattern is very easy to follow. It's going to be kind of I think Andrea calls it a Mobius cowl, so where you knit it all the way along and then you twist it and then sew the two ends together. So it does start with a provisional cast on, but really enjoying this. It does make me want to consider knitting the sweater version, because I am loving this Surrey alpaca so much. In fact, I've ordered some more to pair with some other yarn, just because I'm enjoying this experience. And I just think it's one thing to have a woolly knit, especially a merino, it's lovely, but this is just like, it's just amazing. It reminds me of my cat's fur, actually. Really, really soft. She's a very soft and fluffy cat. But it's going to be so beautiful and also so warm and soft on my skin in winter. Because it will be effectively quadruple layered. So even though it's fingering weight yarn, you'll have the Surrey as well. And you'll have 4 layers of yarn to keep you warm once this is all sewn together. So I feel like I'm going to make a lot of progress on this. Wouldn't be surprised if I could have it mostly done in a couple of weeks. But I have to remember I have other projects to knit too. And I love this yarn. I'm really, really enjoying it, like I said. It doesn't actually say on here what the yarn colours are, but I'll put a link into the website for Botanical Yarn so that you can have a look yourself. She's got several different kits on there for this. So Velvet Mirror KAL kit. Yeah, and like I said, highly recommend. As I said, I'm also running a KAL, so I have set up a finished objects thread on Ravelry. The winner in the UK will get a skein of hand-dyed yarn by me. And elsewhere I'm going to find some patterns to offer as prizes too for those that aren't in the UK. I can't remember off the top of my head what the deadline I put in was, but I will also add a chatter thread today so that people can actually share their projects as they work on them. I definitely recommend checking this out. Like I said, I would never ever have thought to knit it before seeing it on the Botanical Yarn stand at Unravel. So yeah, definitely consider Surrey alpaca as well. For me, a great alternative to mohair because, as it turns out, I'm allergic to it. So this is just super soft and causes me no trouble at all. So yeah, really happy with that project so far. I dropped this Surrey silk, and I hope to make very good progress on it. You'll have to see in a couple of weeks if I only have this to show. I might have finished it. Let's see. There we go. So that is that one. And lastly, one more project that's kind of going to be ongoing. And this is being kept in my hide and hammer bag in the berry colour that I got from my husband at Christmas. So this is my Pradera Wrap. Can't recall the... I'll pop the name of the designer in the notes and also on the screen now. But this is a scarf pattern. It's free and I am using up my DK mini skeins from my Advent, which was a cozy and warm Advent by Beehive Yarns. So yeah, I've started from day one, which is here, and I'm going all the way along over here. So it's gone into orange and then browns and then this lovely kind of speckled brown with hints of pink in it. Let me show you. There you go. So it is designed as a fade, this Advent, which is why I wanted to make a massive scarf basically out of it. But I do find that this is great go-to knitting when I'm concentrating on something else, because it's a very simple knit but it has enough interest to keep me going. Also the colour changing really keeps me going as well. And it's been I think it's going to be a great way to show off all these beautiful yarns that are fading together. I am now on colourway 11, so day 11 of my Advent calendar. I haven't made as much progress as I had done before. I think I've done 3 colours, maybe 2, maybe just 10 and 11. But like I said, enjoying it. Would recommend if you have an Advent set that you don't know what to do with. You can also just marl it together if you've got fingering weight. It does tell you how to do that in the pattern too. So yeah, I'm making some progress on that one as well. and it does make me actually really want to get another DK yarn advent that's in a fade from someone for next year. I know that yarn dyers are already taking orders for advent calendars because obviously it does take some time to put together, so I'll see when I feel like actually ordering one what's available at that point. Also keeping an eye on things on Instagram to see what's available, but it does feel very early to be ordering an advent calendar in effectively March for December. I understand why they do it, to get early orders so that they can actually plan the yarn dyeing, because it takes a lot to dye 24 different colours for an advent. But yeah, happy with that, and one day it'll be a scarf I can wear. I have also been doing a very little bit of sewing, so I wanted to show you what I've been up to. I have decided to make a small quilt, essentially for my cat to sit on, which seems very odd, but she really likes to sit on the back of a chair in the lounge, and I think it would be nice just to have something to go over it so that her hair doesn't get all over the chair and gets on the quilt instead, and then we can delint it much more easily. So I have a set of fat quarters that I bought from a local shop here. I have no idea who the designers are or anything like that. It was literally just I picked out a few fabrics and bought them. They were at a fixed cost, so I chose some that went well together basically. But I have this really cute kind of countryside one that has animals in it as well on some of the patches. So this one has chickens, this one has foxes and rabbits, and these lovely trees as well. Then I've got this kind of plainer, but you know, with some interest, sort of beige one. Then I've got some lovely spools of thread in the same kind of colours, simple teal colour, and then a simple white kind of with a bit of interest at the end. And I've got 5 of these strips, so it's going to be a 5x5 small quilt, and the idea is it will just go on the back of the armchair that we've got in our lounge, which is also a cream colour, so it should go quite nicely. Yeah, so I did put those together pretty quickly yesterday afternoon actually, and I was surprised how fast it was. So I'm obviously getting used to cutting out those squares for quilts and just sewing them together really simply. I have a whole load extra 5x5 inch squares from this, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them in the end. Maybe I'll make a cushion or something to go on the chair and then it will match. But yeah, I just thought it would be nice. I enjoy kind of using fabrics because I like matching them together, so it doesn't have to be for a specific gift or anything like that, or a massive quilt. I'm just having fun making it and relaxing whilst doing so. But I feel like it'd be nice to have a quilt on show in the lounge as well. So that's those. I will give you some progress in a couple of weeks when I've been able to sew a bit more. Hopefully I'll have at least the quilt top all done, and I'm thinking of having a board around the edge like I've done for some of the other baby quilts I've made. But yeah, thoroughly enjoying that. I have a Singer heavy duty machine. It's really good actually. So the reason I ended up switching from my original Singer was because when I was sewing the woven fabric I was making, I really thought my original machine was just gonna break because of the layers of woven fabric plus interfacing plus another cotton lining. It just felt like the machine was very unhappy when I was sewing with it. So I ended up getting a heavy duty one, which is much faster and sturdier. So I'm really happy with that at the moment. The only thing that worries me a little bit is how fast it goes. So it goes from like 0 to 100 really quickly. So I have to be really careful with the foot pedal. But any tips, always welcome from any more experienced sewists. I'm still considering myself a beginner, especially in terms of quilting, as I've only made 2 quilts so far. But I'm learning and enjoying doing so. At the same time, I'm really glad to be getting back to some sewing as well, after a bit of break. So on the subject of sewing, I have one set of acquisitions at the moment, and that is some cotton fabric that I bought for bags. So I'll show you this. So this is cotton canvas, and it's really lovely and thick. Here you go. And this is the teal colour. And the idea is that I'm going to make some project bags, and this will be the bottom part. So a little bit like this, where I'll have the cotton canvas, which is the thicker fabric, at the bottom, so that it makes quite a nice sturdy base. Yeah, and I've got this lovely teal colour, and a couple more as well. Pink. And then I also got a navy blue. This I ordered from Frumble, which is a kind of an online haberdashery, so they've got loads of fabrics and threads and things, and they sent me this lovely postcard as well. So yeah, Frumble fabrics. Yeah, and the fabric seemed reasonably priced, but also they had an array of different colours to choose from, so I'm excited to try and sew with something different, because I haven't sewn with anything like this really thick canvas before. Another thing I got for the project bags was some kind of cotton webbing. I'm not sure what to call it exactly, but this is going to be for bag handles. So yeah, it just is quite thick woven cotton that will make some really lovely sturdy bag handles. And I've definitely already got some other fabric in mind to use with this to make those bags with, so I'll be sure to show them when I do get a chance to sew some of those together and have a bit of a craft afternoon with my sewing machine. So yeah, that's the only acquisitions at the moment until my Surrey alpaca arrives, which should be late in April, because I've pre-ordered a book with it as well, so it'll be some time. But yeah, very excited to do a bit more knitting, and otherwise thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed hearing about my projects, and I will speak to you again in a couple of weeks. Bye!